Hello everybody, Lux the Grey here. Welcome back to another video. This will be a continuation of our Shadowscape campaign, though it is now called the Lone Wolf. So as the story goes, the Lone Wolf has departed the kingdom of Shadowscape in search for the next stone, the next dragon stone. He is on his way to Gravenhold, but it appears he stumbled upon a camp of goblins. So what you're looking at, this is the Lone Wolf right here, or also known as Wolf. And as I mentioned in my last video, because we transitioned from the Shadowscape retiring two characters to just now Wolf being solo, making it easier on myself, I gave him tough and a toughness. There will also be a few additional house rules that I will introduce later on, mainly with bennies. But for now, he has 3, and he has 1 experience point since we started using Savage Worlds. So right now, Wolf is in the forest, taking a shortcut that he stumbled upon this little camp of bandits. Let us move this over here so you guys can see it. There we go. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 total bandits. Here's their hut, and here's a dire wolf pulling some cargo with some barricades and their flag. So they have a campfire going. The main bandit, the goblin leader, is, I believe, this one right here. So the wolf is going to stealthily approach to survey the area. He wants to loot their camp, but obviously he is heavily outnumbered. If only we had more characters, but we are stuck with what we got. So, no real stealth check required for this part, but basically he's going to be carefully crouching, walking through this forest. And as he gets up here out of camera, he sees there is just through the tree line, these are all trees, these little stumps. They're not cut down. He sees this goblin right here who appears to be standing guard. We can certainly ask the Oracle, is this goblin asleep? Is he bored, twiddling his thumbs? Or is he actually asleep? I think I'm going to roll it. Is this goblin asleep? Let's say 50% chance. 47. He's dozing off. That's a very weak yes. He's dozing off, which gives us the advantage if Wolf wants to proceed in taking out this goblin or distracting him. Wolf is going to be smart here. His hindrance is arrogance, loyal, and it has a phobia for crows. Actual crows, which we haven't run into just yet since we started Shadowscape. Thus, the arrogance could be perhaps overconfidence to an extent. But he is smart. I'd say he is a valiant leader, was a leader technically, but his edge is he is brave. That gives him a 2+ fear test when necessary. And he also has alertness. So, if we pull out the book, I want to look up what alertness does for our friend, as it's one of the edges. Now, I believe that gives him an advantage at certain moments, but just to be sure of it, alertness, as it's an edge, is a +2 to notice, which I have jotted down on a sheet. So what we'll do is an actual notice roll. His notice roll is a d6 +2. of course, we have to be rolling it with our d6 wild die. No disadvantage here. This will be, actually, while I'm doing this, I'm going to zoom the camera out just a hair, just so you guys can see the dice. Now, the disadvantage of using this kind of mat, which is a dry erase friendly, it has the fluorescent lighting reflection because it's glossy. I'm looking into buying a printed mat that's fabric, which I do have with BattleTech, but it's more. We used it in our recent one of my recent deathmatch videos, but it's a wide open area. I want to get one that's specific for the forest. Anyways, let's roll a notice roll with our +2. Of course, the target is 4. And we're going with the 5 +2, that's 7. That's not a raise, but it is a success. So with that roll, what we'll do is pull out our friendly one-page mythic to see what he notices. 28. Danger. That makes sense. 6. Bleak. Okay, so what he sees is not necessarily the goblin that's dozing off, but he sees these 3 goblins further back appear to be either unloading or loading this cart. So the danger has to be with the 3 goblins. They're well armed. What is bleak is that he can't tell necessarily, it might not be entirely related to the word bleak, but he can't tell what they're doing. He doesn't see in this line of sight. If he had a raise, maybe he would have seen a reflection, but there's no mirror around. He doesn't see the cart with the dire wolf. He just sees these 3 goblins. Now, that could be what is bleak, but I'm more leaning towards the danger. So as he is on watch, he's observing, these goblins step out of frame from his point of view and go around the corner here. He doesn't notice, he doesn't no longer sees what they're doing. This goblin walks a bit back, leans against the camp, and starts to fall asleep. These goblins, they're huddled around the campfire, are chatting. Wolf is going to walk over here near the barricade, near the spikes. Now he's off frame, but he's essentially up here. There we go, so you guys can see it. These goblins start to chat. There seems to be some excitement brewing. While Wolf is planning out an approach, he has no idea what's happening over here off camera. These 3 goblins walk around the dire wolf with the cargo and start talking with the other bandits. I don't believe Wolf can see most of these goblins. Perhaps he can spot this one. But what we'll do, because of the distance, there is 1, 2, 3 trees in front of him. Perhaps he might be able to get a sliver. We'll do another notice roll to see if he can spot this little gathering of goblins. He knows that this is a goblin camp, so he has that knowledge. He knows that there are going to be more than one, obviously, and he saw those 3 here. So naturally, he's assuming there's a group of them. I don't think he's taken into account there's all these, let's see, there's 7 grouped up. This goblin's supposed to be on guard, but he's obviously dozing off. So we're doing a notice roll, but I'm doing a -2 penalty because of the trees. But we still have the +2, so which means I take the 5. I think I just rolled that earlier. So we take the 5 naturally, +2, -2. It remains as it is. It is a success. He sees that there are these goblins, and perhaps he does see the fire barely. So he's being very cautious now. He doesn't want to alert the group. So he's going to walk up here stealthily. I think we're getting close to requiring a stealth roll for this. Not now, but close. He sees as he leans to the left, to his right, the goblin is fast asleep, and these guys are having a little get together. Now we will roll a stealth check. What Wolf wants to do, he has a dagger, he has a long sword, so he does have the dagger for close range without making too much noise. He wants to sneak up and kill this goblin stealthily, something a rogue would typically do, but again, we don't have Rayla anymore. This will require a stealth check, which is not one of his skills. So, stealth is going to be a d4 rolled with a -2 penalty, but the modifier also applies to our wild die. So let's roll for it. He's going to try it. He has armor on, but I will maintain the skillless -2 modifier. And look at that. They both explode. So even with the -2, the 6 is a 4, and they both explode. So here's what I'll do. I'm going to roll another wild die and another d4. Luck is on Wolf's side today. Okay, so here's what we got. The highest technical roll, let's see, we have 5, 6, 7, 7, 8, 9. So we go with the wild die route. He rolled a 9, which is technically 1 success for 8. And that's 1 raise, too. That's a success and a raise. So with that raise, I will be doing what I call a little Benny. Little Bennies are going to only be used for damage rolls. I will count them as either +1 or 2 to a damage roll. That is what I'm giving for our solo play here. This is the other house roll. It's called a little Benny. So it's a slightly smaller size chip compared to the Cowboy Bebop casino chip here. Okay, so he's able to get up to the goblin. Let's realize how large his figure is compared to everything else. He's like 9 feet, 10 feet tall here, but ignoring that, with the raise, he's able to kill or use his dagger. So, how to roll for this? I would roll fighting, which is, again, we have to now grab the goblin, his stats from the book, and look for his toughness. Pull up a goblin. A goblin's toughness is 4. Because he is asleep, I'm not rolling for attack, I'm rolling for straight damage in this part. Toughness of 4. So our damage with the dagger is a strength plus a d4. So grab the d4. Our strength is a d8. And rolling this together for the toughness target number of 4. No wild die. This is a damage roll, by the way. That is going to be 8, 9, 10, 11. So, not only do we wound him, not only do we shake him, 7, that's well over 4, 8. That's 1 raise. We wound him, thus killing him. So, I will remove him from combat. Wasn't really necessarily combat at all around, but he's able to kill that goblin, slicing his throat as he covers his mouth and falls over to the side, seeing Wolf there as his demise. Now, did this goblin have anything worth looting for? Let's figure that out. Let's ask the Oracle. I'm going to say 40% chance. Okay, that's a 28. So here's what I'm going to do. I have these new cards I have for loot. They're they are for D&D, but we will try our best to perhaps mod them a bit. We'll have to adapt them to Savage Worlds. So he had this on him, an Energy Shroud Ring. Very rare. We might have to nerf this a bit. This silvery ring grants resistance to one type of energy as determined on the table below, much like a ring resistance. So we have to roll a d10 and see what it does. Let me get my d10, which I just rolled, and figure out what this does exactly. 8. Psychic. Okay. 3. Garnet. 3. Red. Okay. So this ring grants a resistance to psychic energy. Okay. I think that's doable. But that might be too powerful for something this lonely little goblin has on him. So what I'll say is that the ring is broken. So he will toss it aside. Did the goblin have any? I think we'll save these for actual rare moments, artifacts after a full session. Did he have any gold on him? 75% chance. He did. Okay, let's say he had 30 gold pieces on him. I'm gonna add that to his inventory, which puts him up to 300. Sorry, 106 gold pieces. And luckily, the slaying of that goblin has not alerted the others. Okay, so the entrance to the camp is actually right here. This little hut doesn't exactly have an entrance on it, but I'm going to say it's near the gang. Now, while Wolf is doing that, as that was happening narratively, several of these goblins are going out to do another raid, while a few stay behind. So they venture off camera, and 3 others stay behind. The boss also leaves. He's definitely not going to stay back. But these 3 remain at the camp. The direwolf stays. Or let's say he does actually go with them. So I will pull those characters off the mat. And now it's down to the 3 remaining goblins. Okay, so Wolf is slowly walking as he hears the direwolf take off with the cargo. That's a little disappointing because that cargo must have had some good stuff on it. But I'm going to spend a Benny here to change the narrative and say the direwolf dropped something. Something fell off the back of the cargo. What fell off was the following. Let's use our one-page mythic. What fell off the back of the cargo? 66. Something that leave that obviously represents what happened. 45. Incomplete. Okay, it's part of something. What could it have been? Let me try the items here for once. Another go. Okay. Okay, I'm going to say a small box of fruits and vegetables fell off, so rations. He's going to take some of those rations as they fell off the back of the cargo, the wagon, and add that to his inventory. He picks it up. As he's over here, he can hear these 3 goblins chatting. And so we'll roll a notice roll to see. Actually, let's roll for it. Let's see if he hears these as he's getting this cargo, this small box that is right there. He equips it, or he puts on his person. Let's do a notice roll to see if he can hear these goblins chatting. So no penalty. This is just a standard D4. I'm sorry, this is a standard 4 target number with a +2. Okay, so +2 gives us a 6, which is a success anyways. He does hear this goblin here laughing, chatting about something. So Wolf is going to sneak up, and he is straight up going to attack. Or, better yet, playing it smart, pick a stone up and throw it somewhere near over here to distract them, like Agent 47 would. Now, throwing is a skill that he does not have, but a small pebble I don't think really requires a roll. So this will be an automatic success. He throws a pebble, and thus how many of them does he actually distract? Let's roll a d6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I'll use the white die. 4. So 1, 2, 3, 4. He distracts 2 of them. These 2 turn this way and say, "What was that? Did you hear that?" And so they walk over here, exactly much like Agent 47 from the Hitman games. They walk over here. This goblin is, let's say, he is feasting away on some food, not really paying attention. And while they're kind of over here, we will now do a stealth check. Wolf is going to walk up here and see that goblin. You know what? This is interesting. So we have these 2 goblins here. This goblin's eating away, and this angle is not exactly. We'll have to do a stealth check. That's kind of risky. So again, he doesn't have any stealth check. It's a D4, -2 penalty. Let's do it. This is skillless. Okay, so the 4 explodes. The wild die is ineffective. -2. We have to roll a 4. So let's roll another one. 2. Oh my gosh. Okay, so -2, that's 6. That's a 4 success. He's barely able to sneak up on this 10-foot monstrosity, approaches this 2-foot sized goblin, and stabs him with his sword. So we'll roll for damage. Again, the same thing as I'm doing here, whether it's a house roll or not. Just kind of making it my own. He's going to attempt to kill this goblin who has a toughness, again, of 4. We're skipping the attack roll because of the success. You know what? Yes, we'll go with that. I was pondering just doing the attack roll, but I think I'll stick with it. So once again, strength roll, the d6, or actually the d8, and the d6 of, let's see, 2 d8s. My mistake. I think last time I rolled it wrong. Oh no, I was using the dagger last time, so I'm using 2 d8s now. Okay, we get 1 explosion. 1 exploding die. I'll have to use a enemy red die. Okay, so that's going to be well over a kill. So we have 8. That's going to be 13, 16. Okay, 16. That's going to be. Let's see. We have a character sheet here. 4, 1, 2, 3 raises. See, I like this character sheet because it has a raise calculator. So we have 1, 2, 3 raises. In my last videos, I was counting my head. I'm sure I got everything almost. I'm sure I got it wrong a lot of times. But 3 raises gives us another small Betty. And he takes out this. Not only is he wounded, he kills him. That goblin's gone. And that goblin dropped, let's say, 25 gold. So now he's at 131 gold. And he also dropped a spear. Now the spears in this game, we'll take a quick little gander at the weapons list without losing the page of the goblin. All right, the spear, I think it has a D4, if I'm not mistaken. Let's see here. The spear, D6. So it's a strength plus a D6. Interesting, it has a parry too. I'll have to keep that in mind. Okay, I'm going to add this to my inventory. So 1 second as I put this in the inventory. So in my eyes, that increases the parry by 1. So now his parry is at 8. That's if he uses the spear. So I have to remember that. His parry technically is still at 7. But I have to remember if I use the spear at all in a future combat round, I'm thinking of using that additionally with his parry if he's being attacked by an adversary. So these two are here. They're walking around looking for what that noise was. And now Wolf enters the camp. And what he finds, not a whole lot. There is a box, though. The place looks like it's being whether Wolf is thinking that now that direwolf that left had a lot of the things that were in here. So, but there is a box. There is a locked up case and has a lock on it. So he's inside right now taking care of that. He's going to pick the lock and try to open it up, see what's inside. Now, that's going to be a thieving related ability, and lockpicking is not one of his strong suits. So we have to roll this, the unskilled D6 wild die, -2 penalty, or D4. The D4 once again explodes. Rolling again. A 4 again. Another explosion, which calls for another D4. Okay, so that's 8, 9, 10, 11. That's 1 raise. Okay. So success. He is able to pick the lock, thus also finding a note and an artifact, which we will now draw from the cards. He finds this, a large rod. This is a radiant rod, rare. This glittering crystal scepter imparts flashes of cruciating, I don't know how to pronounce that, light to spells you cast. Bruscating, sorry, my apologies. When you cast a spell that deals electricity, fire, or force damage as a bonus. Okay, so he doesn't actually have magic, but he finds this rod. So I'm gonna write it down in his inventory. Radiant rod. He might just sell it, or maybe he does actually have magic. So I'm going to ignore the description of it and just consider that it might have magical properties. I'll put a star next to it, meaning that it might have magic. Let's see. Okay. Wolf also finds a let's say 100 gold pieces. And there is a note. But the problem is it's written in Goblin, in their language, which he cannot read. We can try. That might be, let's see, smarts or streetwise. Let's try streetwise. That's a D6. Okay, that's a 4 success. He's barely able to make out what some of this says. And let's figure out what it says. Let's roll the D100. D5. Good. 26. Good, empty. Okay. It's good. The note is good, but it's empty. I think what this note details is that the goblins, this is like a little, it's not a journal, it's like a ledger. It details what they do, what they've done, and that they've raided quite a bit, and they're all done with this area, and they're off to the next spot. So they're moving, they're setting up camp. I'd say that the direwolf and the others they left to scout for a new spot. They perhaps have done enough in this area, they're moving on. So that's what I'm thinking. That note just details what they've done so far. They've raided several other locations. They've emptied them, hence the word empty, and it's been good for them. So that's what the note says. So he's going to toss the note because it's not necessarily, but he sees on the note that it says Gravenhold, and that's all he can read. The rest of the note might be smudged off. Perhaps it rained, got onto the case, and got into the case itself, but the note is smudged partially. But he does see the name Gravenhold in the note. I'm going to write that in my journal here that I use off to the side and say Bandit Camp, note, star, mention of Gravenhold, raid. This worries him a bit because he's supposed to get into Gravenhold to look for that stone. He's thinking, do they have the stone? We don't know. It's not in the case. He found this rod, which is not the stone. It's just another magical artifact. But nevertheless, the goblins are back, and they don't see. They see the dead goblin because Wolf didn't hide the body. We forgot to do that. So they pull out their weapons, looking around who did that, and Wolf hears the. Well, let's do notice roll. Does Wolf hear the unsheathing of the swords of their weapons? Notice is +2, d6, and the wild die. He does, +2, so that's a 7. No raise, but he does hear it. Okay, so Wolf is going to bust out and throw his spear at the nearest goblin. So this would be a, I believe, let's see, what would this qualify? Shooting. We're throwing the spear, but I'm going to look this up really quick to clarify. One moment. You know what? Since he is throwing it, technically, I will not consider this a shooting of a weapon. It's not a bow. Doesn't fire arrows. It's not a gun. So I'll consider this throwing. He doesn't have a throwing skill. So it's a d4 with a -2 penalty. But, of course, we roll the d6. The fours have been awesome today. So he rolls a 4 once again. And that is a 5. But however, that's not enough. But I will cheat. Earlier I said damage, but I will put this on here. I will spend a little Benny. And that little Benny is going to bump that up another one. So 2. So it's a 6. Thus, it is a success with a -2 modifier. So it's right at 4. He throws a spear at the closest goblin. So let's say he's right about here. He's right outside the door. Let me move this guy back a bit. He just chucks that spear. He busts out of the flaps in the camp and throws that spear. And the toughness is 4. So we're gonna roll for damage, which is the spear is a strength plus a d6. So that's going to be a d8 and a d6. There we go. Okay. The d8 explodes. Aces. And that is a 12 plus 13, 14, 15. So 15 from the toughness of 4, 8, 12, 16. That's 3 raises. All right. Now raises and damage is an extra wound on top of that. So this goblin's dead. He's out. He goes flying back and hits the tree, the spear right in his gut. This goblin, we're now in combat. So, because we surprised, now we're in combat. I'm going to draw 2 cards to represent our order. 9 for Wolf, 7 for the lonely goblin. It's just him. Okay, so we go first. So, Wolf, I'm going to actually take that spear away. We don't have it any longer. As I erase that off the character sheet. And Wolf attacks the goblin. They have a toughness. Oops, they have a parry. I should say it correctly. Let me bring up his character sheet once more, or the stats, if I can find it. There it is, Goblin. And the Goblin has a parry of 5, toughness of 4. Parry of 5. So we're attacking with fighting, which is a D8, and which is right here, and the wild die, or D6. We're rolling for attack. Okay, so neither is a success, but we're going to spend the Benny to re-roll that, hoping for a better result. There, oh, 4. All right. So I'm going to spend a little Benny to bump that to 5, thus to hit his parry. Success. Okay, now we roll for damage, which is going to be his longsword strength plus a D8. Strength of a D8, and the weapon of a D8. All right, that's 12. The toughness of 4, that's a 12. That's 2 raises, thus shaken and also wounded. So both the goblins have been defeated. Thus, the remaining goblins are off site. They're not coming back for a while, and thus we loot this goblin. He had gold on him, 10 gold, so 246. And the other goblin walks up to him. We walk up to that goblin, and the spear is damaged into the tree, so it's not worth pulling out. But this other goblin dropped a bag of 20 gold. So it bumps up to 266 gold pieces. All right. Now, thus we cleared this camp of the current amount of goblins, besides the ones who left. Thus combat is over. And in doing so, I'm going to give an experience point to Wolf. This was its first solo mission since the team disbanded. All right. And there you have it. That's going to be today's episode. A pretty simple transition into the Lone Wolf. Not all episodes will have figures. I'm going to try to have combat. When there is actual combat, I will try to have an actual battle map because it's much easier to use Savage Worlds with figures. But I hope you guys enjoyed. And as always, please subscribe, comment, and I'll see you next time. Thank you for watching.